Hi guys, welcome to our channel. Today we are discussing an action and thriller movie where the former MMA fighter is caught in the trap of carrying illegal diamonds worth $50 million. Now, he and his brothers have to save their hostage family from a dangerous criminal mafia. Check the title of the movie in the description. At the movie's beginning, Roy, a former MMA fighter, is engaged in a gunfight with a group of mafia on the road, who are shooting extensively. In a flashback 2 days ago, Danny is hunting with his brother Joe, and they enjoy it. Talking about their other brother, Roy, Joe tells Danny that he doesn't like his behavior. He says he is often in jail for violent fights and regrets that he could have had a good job in the army. However, Danny believes that he is a good man. Roy prepares for the fight with his sponsor, Jason, and before the fight, he meets his girlfriend, Lisa, while his recruiter, Julian, keeps an eye on him. Roy goes to fight, and since he is a former Special Forces soldier, he easily overcomes his opponent. Thinking that he has defeated him, he goes to his girlfriend and kisses her. At the same time, his opponent still didn't accept the defeat, and after standing up, he went towards Roy and punched him so much that he finally won the fight. Julian, who lost $10 million because he lost the fight, angrily threatens him, and Roy asks him to give him another chance after all these past victories. Julian, still angry to show how serious he is, orders Lisa to be brought in and, in disbelief, brutally kills her in front of him, believing Roy lost the fight because of her, then informs her that he needs his truck for transportation.
You want to make this up to me? I require your trucks.
He takes him to his warehouse, where he illegally mines many Mojave diamonds and asks him to accept transporting them. Roy, who is shocked, does not want to accept this responsibility. But he threatens him to accept this job because Roy is an experienced and skilled driver and because of the losses he recently suffered. Otherwise, he will kill his brother Joe's family. However, he promises to reward him with $1 million if he succeeds in this mission. In the presence of his armed men, Roy is in a situation where he has no choice but to not accept. That night, Roy calls Joe to inform him about this, but since Joe does not have a good relationship with him, he refuses to answer his phone. The next day, Danny is working alongside his comrade James as a soldier in the army. He is a little worried after he calls his brother Roy and doesn't get an answer. He decides to meet Joe at his horse farm, and upon seeing Danny, he asks him to help his family put up a Christmas tree. Danny asks Joe about Roy, and after realizing that he didn't answer Roy's call last night, he gets upset and thinks that maybe he is in trouble and needs help. Joe seems to regret ignoring his brother last night. Anyway, Danny goes home and is welcomed by his brother's family, and on the other hand, Roy comes intruding and is noticed by his nephews. Danny surprises Joe with Roy's presence and hopes that the two will reconcile, but he still has no desire to see his brother.
He's a vagabond fighting people for scraps outside of truck stops.
Roy joins them, and soon they argue, so he stubbornly regrets coming and decides to leave the farm. Before leaving, he asks Danny if he wants to join him for the next few days, and since Danny hasn't spent time with his brother in a long time, he is encouraged to accept his request. They go on the road, and hours later, when night falls, Roy informs him that they are stopping because he will make money. Danny thinks that his brother has come to buy drugs, but it soon becomes clear that he was summoned for an illegal fight. They get a warm welcome from Jason, and after seeing the first two fights between the two women, it's Big Duke's turn, who is an outstanding fighter with high fighting skills. During the fight with his opponent, he easily overcomes him. But this is not the end because Roy will challenge him. Both are well-known fighters in the Underground Tournament League. However, after the start of the fight, Roy defeats him with superior characteristics, and Danny is extremely happy that his brother won this match. The next day, they go on the road to load the illegal diamond stock. Hours later, Roy meets Paulie, Julian's right-hand man, and is in charge of the warehouse, to collect the diamond load from him. A little later, it turns out that Paulie put the precious diamonds in fruit juices so the police would not be suspicious. The loading is done completely, and the juice cartons containing the diamonds are all transferred into Roy's truck. Paulie gives him the coordinates of the diamond delivery place and warns him that he only has 24 hours to complete this mission successfully. Roy sets off without telling his brother about this mission, and along the way, they stop at a gas station because they don't have enough fuel. After a tiring drive, Danny takes the bathroom key from the store owner and Roy buys some drinks and food to renew his energy. Suddenly the owner of the store notices a group of armed and masked robbers, and he takes out his gun and decides to defend himself against them. While the robbers are stealing Roy's truck, the owner of the store comes out and is killed by the relentless shooting of the attackers. They immediately steal the truck with all the diamonds in it. Roy's useless shots at the last moment are of no use to him, and he kneels on the ground in despair and tells his brother they're in deep shit. They chase them by driving a car they managed to steal from the store parking lot and reach the truck sometime later. There seems to be no trace of the diamonds. They were all stolen. On the other hand, Danny starts to get suspicious and asks him what is happening, but he does not answer, picks up his things, and starts moving. Danny angrily asks again who they are and what exactly they are carrying. Still, Roy ignores his questions and focuses on chasing the attackers, giving Danny a gun to defend himself. A massive shooting begins between them and the robbers, but the two brothers cannot attack them and face their vicious barrage, so they have no choice but to abandon the car and throw themselves out. Roy is forced to tell his brother about the $50 million worth of diamonds. On the other hand, Julian, who is torturing one of his subordinates, receives a call that the diamonds have been stolen and becomes extremely angry. Detectives Johnson and Garcia arrive at the scene of the crime, and according to the number of bullets fired, Johnson believes there is more to it than theft and plans to investigate this case further. Jason, who seems to be an informer, reports his presence at his usual place with a call. Upon reaching Roy's truck, Detective Johnson finds the receipt of the shipment. By examining the fruit juice bottles, he becomes more suspicious than before. Roy and Danny have to spend the night in the desert due to the damage to the car and are worried about the upcoming events. On the other hand, Agent William, FBI agent, meets Jason, and it turns out that he is his informant. William is already involved in this case, and threatens to reveal any information he knows about Julian. The next morning the thieves take the diamonds to the warehouse, and it turns out that Polly planned this robbery to make Roy and Danny look guilty.
Welcome back home to Papa Bear.
While they wander in the desert and walk towards the town, Danny scolds Roy for involving the family. Roy reveals that Julian is dangerous and believes they must find the diamonds before it's too late. Still, unfortunately, there is no signal to send a message. Arriving at the farm, Joe enters the house and realizes that the house has been attacked and his family has disappeared, so he immediately calls Danny. Fortunately, the call goes through, and Joe realizes that Roy is there. Meanwhile, Julian calls Roy and angrily warns him that he has already told him he will take his brother's family hostage. While Joe overhears this conversation, Julian threatens to kill them. He warns that he has only 48 hours to return the diamonds, or he will kill the girls.
You got exactly
48 hours.
to bring my diamonds back.
Out of anger, Joe threatens Roy with death and asks Danny to send him the location. Then Danny blames Roy for how he can get the family into this big trouble. Since Joe is a former military agent, he has a secret room full of weapons under the ground and is determined to save his wife and daughters. He equips himself with advanced weapons and sets out on the road with his giant jeep to join his brothers. Detective Johnson, who found Roy and Danny's location, informs his colleague that they are probably involved in this case. Since they don't have enough evidence to arrest them, they should wait to see how things go. Danny tells Roy that he has always supported him in front of Joe and admits that he has disappointed him now. However, he believes they should focus on freeing the family and saving them from this trouble. Joe reaches them in the middle of the night, and as soon as he gets off, he punches Roy in the face because he blames him. Soon, Julian sends a picture of the girls being taken hostage, which makes Joe more worried than before. Roy remembers that Julian's palace is somewhere northwest of the area, and the three quickly move toward it. Two police detectives, Johnson and Garcia, watching them from the top of the hill, start chasing them to find a clue. The next day, they arrive at the Mafia headquarters led by Julian, and Joe steps in as an ex-military officer and kills some guards with his deadly tactics and moves. With Danny's support, he and Roy infiltrate the palace as snipers, and together, they kill a large number of armed guards without making any noise. In the meantime, Paulie, the main diamond thief, happily gets out of the car. After entering the palace, he goes to Julian's private room, where he is having fun with the girls. He gets very angry that he invaded his privacy without permission. Suddenly Paulie pulls out his gun and kills the girls, shocking Julian. He admits that the diamond theft was him, that he is the true heir of his family, and that he will run the organization from now on. At the same time, Julian reveals that he is his uncle's only adopted son and the family inheritance belongs to him. Roy and Joe fight with the guards outside, and Julian uses this opportunity to disarm and knock him out. Moments later, Joe bursts in and challenges Julian to a duel while Roy is outside, killing the guards individually. After a seemingly tough fight, Julian defeats him and starts threatening him. Suddenly, Roy turns his gun on him, but he is mentally unable to kill him, so Julian soon disarms him. Joe attacks him from behind, and in the meantime, Paulie comes to his senses. First, he shoots at Joe, and then kills Julian. Then, with the support of his men, they knock out Roy and take him with them. Joe survives thanks to the bulletproof, and they move together with Danny to save Roy and his family. Danny calls his colleague James in the army and asks for military help. James joins them by collecting new weapons and cartridges. Agent William follows them, asks for reinforcements, and informs them that he is in an emergency. Paulie wakes Roy up by scratching his face, putting him in a dangerous situation, and forcing him into a fight with one of his best fighters, promising to free his family if he defeats him. While Joe's wife and his nephews are very worried about him, he is forced to enter this unfair fight. At first, he is hit hard and falls to the ground. Still, minutes later, while his brothers infiltrate their area by tracking his phone, he finally manages to defeat his opponent in a tough fight and kill him. Danny, with a sniper with the support of James, kills the armed guards of the Diamond Reserves, and the mine workers take advantage of this opportunity and escape from the forced labor for them. Government security forces also arrive, and they surround Paulie and his men. After Paulie and his men escape, Roy takes advantage of this situation and rescues his brother's wife and nephews from captivity. He frees the girls, but unfortunately, James is killed by an attacker in this deadly conflict, and Danny's attempt to keep him alive does not work. Moments later, he arrives at the diamond mine and picks up a piece of it and looks in amazement. On the other hand, Joe kills Paulie's 2 remaining guards and starts a physical fight with him as he runs out of bullets. As Agent William and his men make their way to the crime scene before Joe commits Paulie's murder, Detective Johnson asks him to hold off and leave the case to him. FBI agents arrest Paulie and confiscate all the businesses he ran. Joe manages to save his family with the help of his brothers. Detective Johnson thanks them for their help in the case that they have been looking for the criminals for a long time and for arresting them in just 48 hours. After resigning as a free fighter, Roy seems to have reconciled his relationship with Joe. At the movie's end, we see that the Mason brothers are back together again. Don't forget to like the video, and subscribe to our channel.